Hello, everyone. I'll just wait for this to get started, get notifications out, and get some of you joining. Big Baby Jonathan, hi, how are you? Thanks for joining. Hello, everyone. $4.50. I assume that's Adam. I hope you're good, mate. And there's Adam. So on this one, we're going to be doing a second round preview. Jonathan Kiernan is going to be joining me. He's my right-hand man here at Lakers UK. Just waiting for him to join, and then we can get started. Hey, Hoopin' and Luton. Hey, Adam again. Well, both Adams. Late night gang. Right, Jonathan is now in the stream, so I will get him on shortly. So, just quickly before we get started, we used to do a podcast called The Late Late Show. That was fed through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just all the major podcast platforms, and that's kind of stopped really, just because it took a lot of time and effort, and when COVID hit, it kind of just derailed that. So that has now gone into this Instagram Live format now. So this is the Late Late Show. This is the new version of the Late Late Show, and it goes on YouTube. It obviously goes on IGTV, and then it also goes on the podcast platforms as well, like Spotify and Apple. So this is the Late Late Show now. So there's a few of you in here. Thanks for all the messages. Thanks for joining. So we'll get started. So, right. So, hey everyone, I'm your host Matt, founder of Lakers UK. In this episode, we're going to be doing a preview of the second round matchup between the Lakers and the Rockets after the Rockets beat OKC in Game 7 just last night, or in the early hours here in Europe. So today joining me will be Jonathan Kiernan, who I'm just getting, should be very soon. And we're just going to go through everything Lakers. How are you doing, mate?
What's crack? All good, you man?
Yeah, all good. I mean, we did only speak a couple of hours ago, but yeah. You're not repping any Lakers gear?
I have an entire wall beside me, but like, good quality over here, so I said just throw on a hoodie for a moment and keep warm.
Yeah, I understand, mate. So, yeah, I was just explaining to everyone before how this is essentially the Late Late Show now, as we were speaking about earlier.
Oh yeah.
And the Instagram lives are now taking over. So I really do appreciate you coming on. So as I said just then, the Lakers will face James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and the Houston Rockets in the second round, with the first game being at 2 a.m. UK time on Saturday. To quite a few of you that are watching this stream, that probably does sound quite daunting, especially for US based, but we're just used to it by now.
Yeah.
What do you think about the prospect of facing Houston as opposed to OKC?
I kind of wish there was OKC because it probably would have been an easier matchup, but I think for most Laker fans, if we're going to win a championship this season, we really want to do it against like all of the best teams we can possibly play. Like we're not gonna have an easy route to the finals. More than likely, it's going to be obviously we're playing the Rockets. More likely, going to be playing the Clippers, and then whoever we face in the final, whether it be the Celtics or Milwaukee or the Miami Heat, it's going to be a difficult run. But yeah, with Houston, it's going to be. I'd say it could go probably 6 games, but I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think we have the right players to kind of give them a lot of problems. But obviously with James Harden and Russell Westbrook, if they show up at top level, they could be really difficult to beat. So yeah, could be a really good matchup for both of us. And yeah, it could be a coin flip, but I have faith in LeBron and AD in our team.
Yeah, obviously we've got OKC UK in the comments here, and yeah, I think I was secretly wanting OKC to go through. I didn't really make it public, kind of my views on it, but I mean, at this stage of the playoffs, I don't think there is like an out and out easy matchup. You know, I think, I mean, personally, I think the Lakers get past both of them. Probably in 5 or 6. I think both teams probably definitely take one game out of OKC and Houston. I think Houston probably will take a second game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not too worried. I mean, there was a lot of talk going into, and it's been replicated now, going into the playoffs with Portland being this, the greatest 8 seed ever. And, they were swept aside. Well, not swept, but they were put to one side with relative
A
ease,
gentleman.
really. Yeah, gentleman's sweep, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, the Lakers would have had 6 days off by the time game one comes around in the second round. Do you think that is a positive or a negative? Do you think that is anything to be concerned of, or is it an advantage?
No, I think it's a pretty good advantage for the Lakers because if, say, for example, if we went full 7 games and we had just like had maybe 1 or 2 days to prepare, we at least know for a fact that it's going like now it's going to be the Houston Rockets. So we had sufficient time to prepare for either team. So yeah, the days are going to be great. If there's any people on the squad that have kind of niggling injuries, or like if AD's ankles at him, or if LeBron has like a sore shoulder or anything like that, at least now they have the time to kind of recoup a little bit, kind of do even more analysis on the Houston Rockets, and hopefully come correct with the best game plan. Like I'm convinced now that we know it's the Rockets. I guarantee you the Lakers are basically going like first team against like a micro ball version of like the smallest lineup they can get on the Lakers. Like I can imagine the starting lineup going against likes of Markieff Morris at center, probably Jared Dudley, Kyle Kuzma, KCP, not KCP, Alex Cruz, and another one of the other guys. It's just to kind of give them as many reps against that squad before they can really kind of. Oh, and Dion Waiters actually, yeah, Dion Waiters is like hard and light, but well, I can imagine them kind of doing their best to kind of prepare for them now. I don't see it being an easy matchup whatsoever, but I think with sufficient time we can prepare to beat them in like the best way possible because we have a great coaching staff, great playing staff, and I think we can both of them together can really kind of come up with a really good game plan to kind of beat the Houston Rockets. And I'd say in probably 5. I have a feeling it's going to be 5.
Yeah, I think I personally think that we'll be a little bit rusty. I think the opposite to you. I think that we've seen a very rusty Lakers in the bubble, except for obviously the last 4 games. But obviously, as we finish that regular season, it was quite a struggle. I don't know about you. I really did switch off for quite a lot of them games, especially as we were just crawling to the playoffs. I think, 6 days off when we hit the momentum that we did hit to put Portland to bed. I think it will take a little bit of time to get back into that rhythm after having a week off, but the whole season's been stop-start really. So I think I can see where you're coming from the rest standpoint. We've got a lot of like veteran players, older players. At least they can get rested. Any niggling injuries can hopefully be treated in that time. And obviously you alluded to it briefly then, but what do you think are the keys to the Lakers winning the series then?
I think the main key is not kind of biting on Houston playing micro ball. It's very easy for us to kind of go small and try and beat them in that game. I think we need to stick with kind of a similar lineup to what we have now. We have the length to beat them. We have like AD and LeBron who are just. I don't see Houston having one player to kind of being able to stop both of them. We really just need to rely on LeBron and AD to kind of get the job done. We need to kind of do our best to kind of limit James Harden as much as we can. I wouldn't focus on Russell Westbrook as much. You see, obviously he's going to be a problem, but if we can force him just to settle for jump shots, which his percentages are pretty poor, that'd be great. If we have the length to kind of block him at the rim, You have AD, and I'd say if I have to make one adjustment for the Lakers, I'd probably stick Dwight Howard into the starting lineup for this one, as like he'd be a really good weak side kind of shot blocker for the likes of James Harden when he goes iso ball. But yeah, I don't see it being a major problem for the Lakers. I just think we need to stick to what helped us so far. Like, we have a strong team. We know what we're good at. We stick to what we're good at. We are strong defensively. I think we probably faced a better kind of guard pairing in McCollum and Lillard in the last round, and we dealt with them quite well. I think we can do the same with Harden and Westbrook. Oh yeah, I guess Harden's a different animal in terms of like he's probably a better player than Lillard. But if I had to choose between McCollum and Lillard and Westbrook and Harden, I'd choose Lillard and McCollum every day of the week, because at least we know they can play together really well. But yeah, I really think that the Lakers are going to kind of play their normal game and pretty much win. I can see the Houston Rockets frustrating us, especially crowding AD in the paint. When it's back to the basket, they showed it during the season where they kind of threw 3 or 4 players into the paint to kind of to limit them. But all you have to do is throw it out to the kind of likes of KCP or LeBron or Alex Caruso or Danny Green and kind of wait for an open shot. And if them shots are falling, like, there's no way they're beating us. But it's going to be an interesting series.
Yeah, I mean, as the days kind of progressed and kind of it's come to light that we are facing the Rockets, because even when it went to the latter stages of that OKC Rockets series, no one really knew who we were going to get. Then obviously with it going into a Game 7, it was just a toss-up right until like the final shot, really. I've been kind of thinking about it as the day's been progressing and kind of like throwing things down ahead of this live stream. And
yeah.
I think just you said it there. I think everyone's talking about how the Lakers are going to adapt to this small ball, but how are the Rockets going to deal with the Lakers? You know what I mean? How are they going to deal with, this team that have propelled to the top of the West and, stormed through the playoffs? Could have very well been a sweep against Portland as well. We said on the last live stream with Cole, that first game 1 loss, did go right down to the wire. And if it wasn't for a few defensive errors, down the stretch, it could have easily been a sweep in that series. And I think one thing I'm worried about, and obviously we've spoken about this off air, is that I just don't want them to throw it into AD with his back to the basket, like you just said. Then we've seen it at times in the season. It seems that we've kind of gone past that now, but I just don't want them to be pinning the offensive workload through AD every single time. I don't think Vogel will allow that to happen, but no. I think it really won't surprise me if we see that for a game and we drop the game, to kind of like learn the lesson. But I think that AD will expose the Rockets' small ball lineup. I mean, you said it'd be cool to have Dwight Howard in there. I mean, it'd be cool to, flip AD to the 5 and see him quite prominent at the 5 throughout the series. Now is the time to do it. I think, Howard is, I think he's like 2nd or 3rd in the playoffs in offensive rebound percentage, I think. So, he's obviously I didn't realize that, but he's getting the job done on the boards. And I think that if AD does get double team in the post, we can swing it out. KCP he needs to keep it up. He's playing at an unbelievable level right now. 40% from 3. Obviously, LeBron's over 40% from 3 as well. I think Danny Green needs to step up and get out of his slump. He's a veteran. I know people have kind of gone off him, but he is a very talented player on both ends of the court and can be very big for the Lakers. So it's not time to put him in the bin just yet. And then I think that's everything I have really. I think I know you said Howard can come in and be involved, but I'm not sure if it's really the series for McGee or Howard. I think off the bench, Markieff will be quite prominent in that 5 spot, and I think it'll be more of a rotation between AD and Markieff, and maybe Kuz comes in with that starting lineup and kind of slides into the 4.
I'm not sure, because the one area, there's a number of areas. I really think the Houston Rockets kind of shot themselves in the foot. They have no I can't think of one. No legitimate center that they can kind of say, okay, if things aren't going well, we have to throw in a center to kind of deal with the likes of Dwight Howard, or if they moved AD to the 5. They have no one to really deal with them. So I think they've kind of shot themselves in the foot in that regard. And for the Lakers, I think for now, I don't think this is a series to kind of grind AD down. Like, I think they should probably wait at the very least to the Clippers series and kind of move him to the 5 then and move Kuzma into the starting lineup. This is not. I don't think this is a series because this could potentially be like easy enough work for him. And I think the likes of Dwight Howard, who you said was like one of the best offensive rebounders in the playoffs in the bubble. This is a perfect series for him just to kind of pick on like smaller lineups. Like, it's going to be the likes of Robert Covington and Luka Mbamute, and who else is like
Tucker as well.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of guys he can genuinely just pick on in the paint. He's going to grab an offensive rebound and put it back. And unlike the like previous series or previous games, there's not going to be that many people who are going to kind of be like his height and be able to kind of stop him from doing it. And the same with AD. Yeah, I completely agree with you when he's back to the basket. That's just not a good game for him right now. If he can if he can do what he did in Portland series, basically just catch the ball, and instead of kind of jab stepping or kind of pushing his way back to the rim, just burst straight to the basket. It worked really, really well, and like it won't, if they try to crowd him in the paint with the bunch of small forwards, they're not going to be able to do it because he'll be there so quickly that they won't be able to collapse in on time. And if they do, that's the perfect time for him to kick it straight out of the paint. But yeah, I think if we can dominate them on both sides of the boards, I don't see us losing this. Like, we have the necessary defenders to kind of at least, we're not going to stop James Harden. We have enough defenders to limit him. We have like the likes of Alex Caruso capable of kind of putting in a shift. As I think he's one of the best efficiencies in the bubble at this moment in time. Then he
was the top defensive rated player on the Lakers in the last playoff series as well, with Kuzma second.
Yeah. Then you have KCP, good length, capable defender. Danny Green, he's been terrible. Like I have an article coming out tonight actually, but he's been terrible in the bubble. But the one thing he does that is exceptional still is that coming down the court, Danny Green is exceptional at kind of guiding the opposing player to where he wants him to go. As in, like, if, say, for example, he guides him over to where Caruso is, that means they can double team him fairly easy and he has to dish the ball elsewhere. And they're good at kind of trapping him and making him kind of go to different areas where they don't want to go. That's what they did to Lillard the entire playoffs, where the likes of Caruso and Danny Green were kind of trapping Lillard at half court and kind of forcing him to where he really didn't want to go. And that's what we need to do with Harden. We need to get the ball out of his hands, ideally. Or even, he's been doing, when he gets the ISO ball, he's fairly decent at the rim. But at least if we have like the likes of Dwight Howard and Anthony Davis, we have people that can crowd the paint and make it really, really difficult for him to kind of get an easy bucket at the paint, because we have Davis is an elite shot blocker and Howard was a former elite shot blocker, but he's still extremely capable of doing a job there. So yeah, I really think we need to stick with the lineup we have at the moment. If you go small ball, we risk kind of stooping to their level and kind of being put in a position where we're like, or we're trying to match them. Maybe they're quicker than us up and down the floor, but
we're playing their game.
Yeah, we still have quite very mobile bigs, and if it means kind of moving AD to the 5 and Kuz to the 4, or LeBron to the 4 and Kuz to the 3, we can definitely do that. That's probably a better option than maybe having Markieff in. Like, Markieff is still going to do a job as well. But if we can just kind of keep our advantage of length, make sure that we're not kind of stooping to their level. Not that sounds kind of bad, me saying stooping to their level, but kind of just saying to ourselves, we know what our strengths are. Our strength is our length. We're capable of bullying people in the paint. So we be the bulliers, like, and kind of bully them rather than trying to bully us with a number of people in the paint.
Yeah, I think going back to your early point about Dwight Howard, I think if he's effective on that, like, because it's going to be like a game of permanent switches, really. I think if he can keep up with, the guards and the wings and keep his foot in well, stay agile, good lateral movement. I think it could very well be a series for him. It just doesn't fill me with confidence, but I'm hoping so. But I think AD can switch out to Harden and do a job on Harden. We've seen him actually block a Harden three earlier in the season with his length, and I think Kuz has been remarkable defensively in the bubble, and we probably all saw that Laker film room video on the Lakers socials recently showing us about his footwork, and it kind of just goes to show the intelligence of his game on the defensive end. And if he isn't shooting well and isn't producing well offensively, at least he can bring that defensive energy and IQ really. So I think in terms of containing Harden, I think Kuzma and AD can do a job there. And, I think there's also like Danny Green, who's a more than capable defender. Not really too sure about him kind of doing the dirty work, running around in circles. A bit old for that. But I think KCP can certainly fit into that mould. I think he's got the legs to be running after guards. I think that's predominantly what he's there for, really. And then obviously there's J.R. Smith, who can give that little bit of grit, kind of dig in, be a little bit rough and tough as well. So I think on the defensive end, there are players that I'm not going to say the term, will deal with them, but there's players that can do a job, because I don't think we're not going to stop Harden. And we're not going to stop Westbrook. It's just a matter of just containing them as much as possible. And, believe it or not, I thought it would be the other way around. But last time I looked, Houston were actually the best defensive team in the bubble. And the Lakers are one of the best, or the best offensive team. Yeah. And you kind of wouldn't think that it was that way around. Yeah. But I think this series could just go to a shootout, really. And I think if it's Westbrook and Harden versus LeBron and AD, I think it's a side, especially with the pieces we've got. We've just named a lot of them. If we're firing, I think that if it's just a shootout, I think we can get the job done. To be honest with you, and I don't know if you saw, but talking about them being the best defensive team in the bubble, but did you see that open look that Steven Adams had in the last play of Game 7 for OKC?
No, actually, I don't remember, no.
They left a path open for him to the basket, and if they'd played the lob, they could have got that. You do that against the Lakers, that's going to be AD, that's going to be Dwight Howard, that's going to be maybe LeBron cutting in. It's going to be a whole host of players. And, and the Lakers have the intelligence to see that.
Oh, 100%. Like, I think the one thing, like you mentioned about Kuz, the one thing I'd be worried about is I think Kuz is definitely unequivocally the leader of the second unit at this moment in time. Obviously, when they stagger AD and LeBron to kind of have them at least one of them on the court at the same time. But Kuz seems to really have just relished in coming off the bench and being that impact guy and getting the points and kind of being like a really strong defender. I'd be hesitant. I think actually you might be right. If AD at the 5 and him at the 4 would be a really kind of good combination to kind of, even for floor spacing, would be pretty good as well.
Especially defensively, though.
Yeah, and defensively, it gives an extra body who's going to kind of really get in Harden's face and kind of make him make difficult shots. But I'm so convinced that we actually don't. I'm just thinking now. My biggest concern for the Lakers is Rondo coming back into the setup.
Yeah, it is with me.
He's healthy now, and we have a winning combination, what seemingly a winning combination at this moment in time. If we throw Rondo into the mix and kind of force the ball to go through him, that could change things hugely. It'd be a good idea for Vogel kind of maybe sit him out for this series, or even if, say, for example, we're mauling them in one game, give Rondo some minutes and see what he does. But I'm not going to throw him in a crunch time as our starting point guard or a point guard to make an impact. It's just going to be a really odd one, because if he had come in in the first round and had like a few games against the Portland Trailblazers, and we could kind of gauge where he's at, that'd be fine. But we're really starting to get into crunch time against teams like that are going to kind of potentially cause us an upset. Like, I didn't see Portland beating us at all. I understood. I thought it was kind of crazy, the media kind of making it out to be more than it was, that they're going to upset us. Like, after game one, it was pretty bad, but I was very confident that we're going to see them off fairly easily. But Houston have the potential to really cause an upset, and I don't think we need to be changing things that much. And like, yeah, Kuz could come into the lineup and do a great job, but Rondo, I'm really kind of wary that like he could give Westbrook exactly what he wants, because Rondo isn't that good a defender anymore. And I guarantee you, compared to Caruso, Westbrook is going to blow by Rondo 9 times out of 10 and get straight and get easy points. And that's the last thing we need. We just need someone to stick in front of Westbrook, stick in front of Harden as much as you possibly can, and force Westbrook to take kind of jump shots, but and force Harden to kind of dish the ball to Westbrook. Because if Russell Westbrook has the ball in his hands for the Houston Rockets this series, we're going to win, and I'd say we win in 5. But if we allow James Harden to kind of play ISO ball, to kind of get clean looks, to collapse the defense and throw it out to kind of some of the wing guys, we're going to be in trouble. But I think we have enough discipline across the board to kind of understand that like we're not going to play into their hands, they're going to play into ours, because we're going to beat them on the defensive boards, offensive boards, and they don't have an answer. If they have an answer for an AD, they definitely don't have an answer for LeBron. Like, that's
Yeah, I think going back to the Rondo topic, obviously we've got a comment here about playoff Rondo, and obviously it's been a few years now since we've seen playoff Rondo, and there's been a lot of debate whether playoff Rondo exists, whether it doesn't, whether he doesn't. I think offensively, yes. I think we could get a lot out of Rondo, especially he's a big time player. He's a big game player that would turn up. I don't have any doubts about that. But when the identity of this team is purely built on the defensive end, I just struggle to see how he comes in and maintains that identity for the team. When he got injured, it was a very strange feeling, because it's not nice to lose bodies, especially when you're going into the business end of the season. But on the other hand, he didn't really have much of a place on the team anyway, and he's a very odd one out. And the thing is, we need that secondary playmaker. So in terms of that regard, he could come in and very well do a job. But we've seen Alex Caruso actually come in to that kind of secondary, maybe not playmaker, but ball handler type role, bringing the ball up the court. And I think against Portland, he had 6 or 7 assists in one game, if I remember correctly. So, I think he's been brilliant in terms of, I think next season we'll kind of hit the market and get a proper ball handling, guard for that second unit. But I think I quite like Alex Caruso there for the time being, I think.
No, I definitely agree. Like, Caruso, the one thing you can guarantee with Caruso is just straight up effort on both ends of the floor. Like, he's not the most talented guy on either side of the ball, but there's few people in the league who are going to try harder than Alex Caruso. Like, he'll jump out.
His IQ as well.
Yeah, IQ is through the roof. He'll gladly jump out of bounds and hit it like the boards, just to kind of get a loose ball for the Lakers. He'll do the dirty work, and that's what you need in the playoff series. Like, we have to be completely honest with ourselves. The ball is going to run through AD and LeBron throughout the entire playoffs, and we need a player on the court who knows that in his own head and can say, "Okay, I'm not going to be like a featured star here. I'm going to be like a role player." Whereas with Rondo, he still has that. I won a championship with the Celtics. I was a key part. I'm capable of like leading this team. Where we don't need him to lead the team. We don't even need him to kind of. All we need, if Rondo was to come back, we need him to move the ball. If he sees an open player, you hit that open player. You don't bounce it. You don't dribble the ball 6, 7, 8, 9 times and kill the clock for us, which he's been doing all season, and it's killed us in some games. So if Rondo does come back, and if Rondo is a real thing, and I hope he is, if he starts for the Lakers or plays for the Lakers this playoffs, I hope he kind of just realizes, move the ball, get the ball to AD and LeBron where they need it and where they want it, and kind of get out of the way. And if he can make a few open shots, which he's shown this season, like he's an improved 3-point player, that'd be great. He can offer us that as well. But we're not looking for playoff Rondo anymore. We're looking for kind of role player Rondo, where he's going to just do his job, do exactly what the coaches is telling him, and not kill the ball. Which is, if that happens and he's playing this entire series, that could potentially kill us, because then you're giving LeBron even less time with the ball in his hands. You're giving AD even less time with the ball in his hands, and you're forcing them to take bad shots that they don't want. So yeah, if I could, between Caruso and Rondo, I'm going Caruso every single time, because Caruso exactly knows his role and knows what to do.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do is, before we get into the overall prediction that you're going to set, which you have hinted at earlier on, are there any other topics you want to bring up before we get into that, or are you good to progress?
No, nothing coming to mind. I think the main thing is that, like, I think we kind of touched on it earlier. It's going to be really interesting to see if JaVale stays in the lineup. And even if it's,
I think he will do. I think Vogel has kind of reiterated that he'll keep that starting unit intact. I think his minutes will plummet though.
Yeah, I think he might get starting game one. If he get into trouble, I think, which I don't see happening, but I see him being the first player like out of the lineup. I don't think KCP or Alex Caruso, KCP or Danny Green get moved out just yet. But yeah, he's at real risk of losing his space. I think he's the only player who's at risk of losing his space in the lineup. And obviously, you're right. His minutes are plummeting, and rightfully so. He's done okay in his time on the floor, and I think he's doing fine. But when it comes to later on in the playoffs, fine is not going to be enough. We need players playing at the best of their ability. And if you can say, okay, we're going to give Dwight more of the minutes and even the starting minutes, then that could be like potentially game changing. But yes, they're going to stick. Vogel's definitely going to stick with what he has at the moment.
Yeah, I think if McGee just comes in at the start of that first quarter, the start of the third quarter, high energy, gives us a solid 5, 6, 7 minutes, probably comes out, playing 12 to 14 minutes a game. I think that'll kind of be what we're looking for from him. And he has been fantastic over the course of the season as a whole. And since being a Laker, it's been a real breath of fresh air to have 100%. This center rotation and not really worry about it, because it has been an area that we've been light on for the best part of a decade, really.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll move on to your overall prediction. So just give us like a few lines on how you think the series will go, and give your overall prediction, okay? And then I'll do mine.
Yeah, no problem. If you run the ball through AD and run the ball through LeBron, and they are effective, we are going to win pretty handily. If the Houston Rockets come up with a good game plan to kind of get Harden open and kind of play iso ball, it's going to be a problem. If we decide to go match them with micro ball or small ball, we could be in trouble. I think we just stick what got us kind of to the dance and stay with the lineup we have, stay playing the same game we have, and we should beat them in probably 5 games, maybe 6. I don't think it's a sweep. I don't think the Lakers are sweeping any series this year, but it's possible. But I don't see a sweep in any series this year. There's too much talent involved. So yeah, I'd say 4-1 optimistically, 4-2 realistically.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to go like kind of when you were talking through, how you think it's going to, progress throughout the series. I think the Lakers have to kind of find a little bit of a hybrid where they don't go out and out small, but they don't stay as tall as they are, where they could be a bit flat-footed. Like I said, that's where I think Markieff Morris will be very effective in that second unit. That's where AD sliding to the 5 and Kuz coming in at the 4 could be very, very effective. And I think that Houston's small ball lineup is quite frank. It's a pain in the ass, and we saw that on February the 6th. You know, they just completely bamboozled us, and I think that will happen again. I just think in a 7 game series, I don't think that is enough to get the Rockets over the line and cause the upset. I think they'll take 1 game, realistically trying to, be a bit smart, give them a bit of credit. I think it'll give them 2 games. I think very early on in the series it will be quite tight. I think maybe at some point we could see the series 2-1, 2-2 maybe.
Yeah.
Then I think as the series progresses, I think the Lakers will get into full flow like they did against Portland, and I think that it'll be 4-2. Um, it might be easy, I mean, let's put it this way: we've been supporting a bad Lakers team for the best part of a decade,
Yeah.
and it's quite difficult to come to terms that we're good again. I
Yeah.
mean, it's been a very long time. So as good as we are, I still kind of think the worst. I mean, I kind of plan for the worst, or I kind of think what's the worst that could happen. I think in this series, I just don't think Houston are good enough to beat us. I think the Lakers, even if it isn't working with, you know, um, Markeith, like you said, they could bring in Howard. They could even bring in Dudley and bring him at the 4 or 5. There's all sorts of options, especially in the guard rotation as well. Normally the rotations are going to be like 7, 8 deep in the playoffs. The Lakers can go 9, 10, 11, and they can be very, very effective. So yeah, I think 4-2. I think yeah, I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, as long as AD doesn't have his back to the basket the entire series, we have a very good chance of winning. Like he showed over the course of the Portland series that he has like a really really good kind of mid-range jumper that he was punishing teams with, and especially with kind of if they're playing on a play micro ball, he's gonna have like a 5-6 inch reach advantage or kind of height advantage over each of the players on the court. So he should be able to easily drain the shot in their faces. Like he was doing this against like the likes of Nurkic and Whiteside, who are similar to his own height in the previous round. If he's doing that
Mm.
against guys who are kind of much smaller, like it should be kind of a piece of cake. But we can't settle for back against the basket because we saw what they did in the previous games. They just crowded them in the paint and force them to take a bad shot, and if he or throw it out to the kind of 3 point line, and we weren't shooting great at that point in time. But yeah, as long as if he doesn't have his back to this basket the entire series, we should be fine.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do is we'll leave that there. We've got the first game on, obviously, it's actually Friday for those in the States, but for us over in Europe, it's, well, in the UK time, that is, it's 2 a.m. on Saturday. So I know that I'm going to definitely try and tune in for that. I've got commitments on Saturday throughout the day, but I'm definitely going to try and tune in. And obviously, maybe as the season is underway or maybe as the season ends, maybe you could jump back on, do a little bit of a roundup. I think either way, even if it's not for that, we'll probably see you very soon. You're always hovering around Lakers UK, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll gladly do it whenever you need.
Yeah, well, we'll leave it there. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. And
Yeah, no.
yeah, we'll speak soon for sure.
Yeah. Cheers, man. All the best.
All right, speak soon, mate. Bye.
Bye.
So there we have it, guys. Really appreciate Jonathan coming on there for the chat. I hope you all really enjoyed it. Um, you know, this is going to go out on IGTV, YouTube, and it's also going to go out on all the podcast platforms. This is now the Late Late Show done through Instagram Live. So, I can see all the comments coming in here and those that have come in and out, to view part of the show, if not all of it. I really do appreciate you all coming on to check it out. If you did enjoy the show, share it around on whatever platform, you're watching this on, or you've caught it on, catch up. So yeah, be sure to follow Lakers UK over on on Twitter as well. We're very active over there, LA Lakers UK. Follow our Instagram, LA Lakers UK as well. Check out our website too, which is lakersuk.com. There's a lot of new articles and content that is going to go out on there. A lot of work just go into them. Shout out to Jonathan and Cole, who beside myself, are very prominent in posting content on the site for you all to digest. So yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed this. Thanks a lot for joining me, whether it's live or on catch up, and we'll catch you next time. Go Lakers.